sleeping Cerberus ASMR, and I know I'm a little late to the party, but I just finished playing through and completing Super Mario Sunshine from the Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection. And I thought while it was fresh in my brain to go through and give some of my thoughts on how Super Mario Sunshine holds up all these years later. Because I know there are some strong opinions one way or another. But I still loved playing through this game. It's not perfect, but it is my favorite Mario game out of these three for sure. I just love the movement of the flood, and which is this little device here on his back, and the environments are so bright, and I mean obviously the vacation vibe. So I thought I would flip through the Super Mario Sunshine guide, which I did use to get everything in this version of the game, and let you know which shines were the hardest to get and where the biggest difficulty spikes came in. So I'll get into that. And I also played it using an actual GameCube controller. I purchased this a while back when they did a re-release for Smash Brothers, and I never really got a chance to use it, so it was super fun to basically have a brand new GameCube controller to play through Super Mario Sunshine. It definitely felt a lot better to play it with this rather than like a Pro controller. So this is plugged into a dongle that plugs into the Switch 2 dock, so you can definitely play it with an original GameCube controller if you have one lying around and you have one of those GameCube dock ports. So yeah, definitely recommend playing it with the original GameCube controller if you can. I think it definitely enhances the experience. It was so fun getting to use this as an actual guide and help me find all of the collectibles. But there are a few things that are not listed here that I found out that I will share with you when we get there. So the beginning is just outlining some of the moves. One of the big omissions in this game is there is no long jump, but there are other ways to get some good distance. The spin jump is one of them. You get some really good distance doing that. But there isn't a standard long jump like in Mario 64. And we're definitely going to talk about Yoshi a little bit. He's kind of a jerk in this game, I'm going to be honest. And some of the most difficult things are with Yoshi, because Yoshi will disintegrate if he drops into water. And then you have to go and find a piece of fruit to bring to the Yoshi egg to get another one. And it can be kind of a pain these sections that require Yoshi. So we'll talk about those here in a minute when we get there. But yeah, kind of a jerk. And then some of the extra nozzles that you unlock. The turbo nozzle is super fun. Just being able to zip around really quickly on land and in water. And if you're in water, you can just go forever. So kind of fun just to zip around. It's just fun to do. And then the rocket nozzle to get some really good height. There are a ton of blue coins in the game. There's 240 coins that you have to find. That's the thing that I did at the very, very end. So you don't have to worry too much about getting the blue coins when you're first going through. I think once you're more familiar with the controls, it's a lot easier to go through and zip through and get the ones that you overlooked. So I wouldn't worry too much about getting every blue coin before moving on. So the first level, you're just going to be getting used to some of the controls. And this is your Delfino Plaza, is your main hub area. And every time you go into a level and come back out, the 1-ups reset. So this one right here was my favorite one to quickly go in. You do a ground pound in the right spot in the sand, and it gets you to a secret spot to get a 1-up. There's another one over here too, but it just takes an extra second. So if you're being lazy and just want a quick 1-up, this is the one I would recommend to get. Okay, and as you go through the game, there will be different events that unlock to be like your major story progression. And unlocking the turbo and rocket nozzles in the overworld. They're located right here. And then here are the 16 shine sprites that can be found in Delfino Plaza. And we're going to get to it in a second, but this is the easy to get shines. And, you know, one in there is one of the more difficult shines for people to get, along with this booger right here. We're going to talk about that. And this is where some of the, if you see lists of the most difficult shines to get, we're going to get there in just a second. Most of these other ones are actually very easy to get. They're just out in the open, a little bit of exploring, and you can get them no problem. But 12 and 13 are the ones that cause people a lot of headache. The pachinko machine, the infamous pachinko machine. And then probably what people say is the hardest level in the game is the lily pad ride. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a second. Because even getting to the lily pad ride, it's way over here on this island, and you spits juice, he can dissolve this yellow gunk. So you need Yoshi over here, and the only way to get Yoshi over here is to hatch him here. Okay? You have to hatch Yoshi right here, and then take him, jump across, go around, go underground here, and then you have to wait for these dang boats, these friggin' boats, and then you have to jump on the boat, which even that is kind of difficult to do with the way Yoshi controls, and it's a very slow boat ride, and then you have to jump off the boat onto this teeny platform, and then you have to wait for another boat to come, and then you jump on that and go over there, and this alone is so friggin' hard, because one little slip up and you fall into the water, you lose your Yoshi and you have to start all the way over again. But when I was doing the game, I originally wasn't even going to bother getting every shine sprite, but there is a couple like glitches that you can do to get to this island, and what I ended up doing, there's a glitch over here, there's the durian stand right here, and with Yoshi, you hug this wall right here, and you will clip through the level, and then you have to bounce around down there. If you do nothing, you'll die, but if you bounce around, you can actually make it under the world and come out of the water here, and that's what I did. It definitely works on the Switch version. I would look up a video how to do it. It took a few tries, because when you're bouncing around under the stage, a lot of times I would jump into the underground pipes down here, and you have to restart, but even that was easier than the original intended method. So, you can try this a couple times, and then you can try that a couple times and see what works for you. But the other big thing that I would recommend is don't come here unless you have a healthy number of lives. I did this at the very end when I had, 99 lives, or I should say before I collected, the main game was done, and I was deciding if I wanted to do the rest. So just in case, because this can be a life eater, but I'll talk about another glitch that you can use to make that a little bit easier. Okay, here we go. So, the infamous pachinko game, and the reason this is so difficult for people is that you get launched up the pachinko machine, and it seems very unwieldy, and you have to go and land in all of these to get coins, and when you get them all, you have to do it again to get the shine sprite here. And if at any point you fall down the bottom, you lose a life and you have to start all the way over again. But there is some really great video guides online, and after doing a little bit of trial on what video to watch, this is actually not bad at all. So it seems very unwieldy, but it's actually very repeatable. So depending on if you just jump and do nothing, you typically will land in the exact same spot every time. So once you just get a feel for, if you hold a button or don't hold a button, where you land, you'll get an idea of how to get all of them, and it's really not that bad. So, before you try to clear the rest of them, I would probably recommend knocking this one out, because if you can't get it to work for you, you're going to pull your hair out. But this is actually not that bad at all, and not even the hardest level that I thought in the game. We're going to get to that later. So, yeah, not that bad once you understand how the machine reacts to your movement. It's not nearly as bad as I think we all remember it being. And then immediately following that is the lily pad ride. And so the reason this is what most people think is the hardest level in the game is, first off, we talked about how hard it is to get there. And then you have to jump on the lily pad, and this is all toxic water, so if you touch this, you die instantly. You have to start over. And it's very unwieldy too. You have to basically spray in a direction to help your momentum shift so you can collect these coins. And if you stay too long on the lily pad, it'll dissolve and you'll die. And there is a 1-up in the stage, but it is very far in it. And not once did I ever get that 1-up, so I wouldn't rely on that to keep you alive. So that's why I would make sure you come to the stage with plenty of lives to spare. So the exploit for this game is very interesting. I didn't know about it back in the day, but basically what you do is you just ride down all the way. You don't have to worry about getting the coins yet, except for number 7, which is up higher. You can't really see it. It's not this one. It's this one. It's a little higher. So you have to jump and get that one. And then what you do at the end, there's this landing spot, and you jump off the back. And then right when you're falling, at the exact moment, you hover back into the water. And for whatever reason, the water, when you fly in from the back, it doesn't kill you. So then you're actually walking under the water totally fine. And you can come back and very, very gently you jump out of the water just a little bit, because if you jump out too far, you'll die. Just the baby tap to get these coins. And then you go all the way back, and then you have to do a backflip out of the water here. And then at this point you should have all the coins, and you can just quickly ride the lily pad back and get the shine sprite. So basically what I would recommend is, as you're doing it, you can try to do this the intended way. So just go down and, because you have to get here to start the exploit. So try to get the coins, and if you miss any other than this one, it's no big deal. And it took me, 5 or 6 tries to get this right, and even those 5 or 6 tries, I was only missing one of the coins. So basically you can try to do it the intended way first, and then if you fail, you have a chance to jump off this and tuck back around in it, and then do it the second way. So once you know how to do that, you can look up a great video on how to do that. This is not bad at all, and not even close to one of the hardest levels. So yeah, don't let this level frustrate you. You can definitely do it. Just take your time. You can try to do it both ways. And, if you don't want to do the exploit, that's why you want to come here with a lot of lives and just get a good feeling for how the lily pad goes, and you can do it that way too. So yeah, don't let this level ruin your fun. And a lot of these other ones are not bad at all. This one especially is super fun, just to jump over all those gaps. It's actually super fun. So all the other ones are, fairly simple and really fun. It's just these, when you're getting to them the first time, this is when the difficulty starts to spike. And there's a few more difficulty spikes that we will talk about as we continue through the guide. And that's when you can only do when you complete the game. You come back to the airship to do a red coin challenge. Not bad at all. So many years ago, when this game was first coming out, they had this running at like a Walmart kiosk or something, and I went into this stage, and it was such a wow moment for me. Just seeing the bright environment and how crisp everything looked back in the day, it was just incredible. So when people talk about the difficulty spikes in this game, you'll see that these first levels are very standard levels, but what we get to are the secret levels. And basically in these secret levels, your flood is taken away from you, and you just have to platform through the stages. And this is where people, call out the difficulty of Sunshine. It's these levels, I think, in particular, because you get so used to using the flood that getting that taken away from you all of a sudden is like crazy hard. But most of them are not as bad as they look, and this guide will show some of the one-ups in the stage, but it doesn't show a lot of the stages will have platforms with these nails sticking out, and one of them will have a one-up, which is way earlier in the stage. So that's something I would recommend is, if you're struggling to find the one-up that is earlier in the stage so you can keep playing it over and over again, you don't have to worry about bleeding all your lives out. So, yeah, don't let these stress you out. Most of them are not that bad. Just get used to the controls and get those one-ups and you'll be fine. And the issue is to complete the game and fight the final boss, you have to be at least stage 7 on every map. And so that's why it is required to do these secret levels. It's not just like, oh, you need a certain amount of shine sprites and you unlock the final boss. You have to get all the way to stage 7. And so that is a major hurdle for people. And one of the common themes in these stages are these like rotating, there's other rotating objects, but these rotating blocks. And an important thing here is, it says it right here, you don't have to jump. It's really made to just run and follow it as it's turning. You don't want to jump, you really lose a lot of control, so just stay calm and just run as it's turning. And this one is not that bad. And this one again, you start here and there's a one-up right there. So as long as you can make it past these turning blocks, you can get a one-up and just do this as many times as it takes. You'll get it. So the level 7 on every stage is the Shadow Mario, where you just have to go and, spray him until you catch him. It's not that bad at all. It is those secret stages that I think drive people crazy. And then originally, like I said, after I beat the game, I couldn't remember how bad these red coin challenges were to get 100% of the game. And I wasn't going to do it originally, but let me tell you, after you beat the game, you beat the final boss, these coin challenges are not actually as bad as they seem because you have your flood. So the level becomes much easier, and then you can just do it pretty easily. And there is a kind of a tight timer, but as soon as you hit coin 8, the timer stops. So as long as you get here within a minute, you just take your time and come and get the Shine Sprite. But by the time you are playing these red coin in the secret levels, you're a lot better at the game, and they're not nearly as bad, so just take them one at a time, and you can knock them out. So here again, you have red coins in that other secret stage. Ricco Harbor. Yeah, most of these early ones are very straightforward and not bad at all. And then you get to Secret of the Ricco Tower, and you'll see these shifting blocks that are rotating, and you really don't want to jump while you're on it until you have to change blocks. This one is not that bad at all. Again, here's the 1-up, so you do have to make it through this first section, but if you can make it there, you can do this an unlimited amount of times. I wouldn't really worry about getting this second 1-up because it's a little tricky to get that one. But, if you can just get that one again, you stay even with your lives if you just keep getting those, and it takes a lot of the stress away, in my opinion. And this again is probably one of the harder levels in the game, where you have our good friend Yoshi here, and you have to platform over to this to spray it to get to the Shine Sprite. And I saw this recently on a list of the most challenging levels, but what you're supposed to do is, depending on what fruit you have, it changes when you spray an enemy what it does. And so when you have the purple juice, the platform will move horizontally, and so you can get to this platform. And then what you want to do is, it's kind of a sketchy jump, but you want to jump over here and get this fruit, which gets you to the pink Yoshi. And when you have that and you spray an enemy, the platform will go vertically, and that will help you get there. So it's not too bad, but again, the reset is really the killer here, where if you fall, you have to swim all the way over here, back up. You have to get the right durian fruit for Yoshi, and it's random, so the reset is the frustrating part. It just takes so long if you fall into the water, but yeah, just make sure you change your fruit out right here, and it's not that bad. But again, Yoshi, kind of a jerk. And then a couple more stages here to get this one. I did have to, they explain here earlier. Just a second. So they say the green blooper is slow, yellow is average, and the purple is the fastest. So on the first one, yellow was perfectly fine, especially if you do that little shortcut and you jump over the turn. But I did have to use, they show yellow here, but I had to use purple here. It's, a little harder to control because it's faster, but I would recommend you can try yellow a couple times, but I beat it with purple, so that's what I would recommend there. Alright, moving on to Gelato Beach, home of another infamously difficult level. But I mean, I love all these stages with the water effects. Look amazing on the GameCube, and then on the Switch version, everything just running at a high resolution. It looks so freaking good. One of the things that I should have mentioned earlier is the guide does give you a recommendation for what level to get the 100 coin challenge in, and most of them are not that bad, just a little time consuming. So this is our first taste of these in the Sandcastle Secrets level, of these sand blocks that will dissolve as you're standing on them, so you kind of have to move quickly through there. It's a little scary, but this one's not bad since it's mostly straight. It's just to give you an idea of how it controls. Okay, here, this is another difficulty spike right here. The Sandbird is Born is another really pretty difficult stage. Fortunately, these blocks don't disintegrate, but there is a part in the level where the entire bird will fly on its side, and you have to as it's turning, walk from the top to the side and then back when it flips over. I was pulling my hair out here. Pretty difficult. Oh, I think we actually, just a second. No, that's right. Yeah, so I was thinking of it when I came back to do the blue coins, but yeah, so the first time you're on the red bird, or the sand bird, you have to get these red coins, and so you have to be pretty quick to get them all before it does that turn. And one of the things that I realized when I came back to get the blue coins is it's really not that bad. I think it's just, this is pretty early in the game still, and I wasn't as comfortable with some of the controls, and I was just like falling off over and over and over again. But just kind of stay calm. You know, the one on the tail is probably the trickiest because it's kind of a straight shot, so I would recommend whatever ones you think are the most difficult. I would actually start there, and so you're not, you know, having to come and get the final coin or something when, oh yeah, the final coin's up there, but you don't want to get the second to last coin and then you die getting it. So whatever one you're struggling on the most, I would just hit straight there, you know, and knock that one out first. And if you're really struggling with this stage, you can come back and do it a bit later when you're more comfortable with the controls and walking from one side of the bird to the other while it's moving. Again, jumping is dangerous here. I would just walk as it's turning, but it does have to be it's a pretty tight window to do that. So this is probably one of the more difficult stages in the game. So, you know, understand that if you're having difficulties, you can come back and knock it out later. And then another one that gets highlighted as one of the most difficult shine sprites in the game is this Watermelon Festival level. And so what you have to do is you have to bring the largest watermelon in the stage to to, it's pretty unwieldy, but you have to push the watermelon all the way over here. And my, pro tip for this one is there's these friggin' enemies that if they get close to the watermelon, they will pop the watermelon. You have to start all over. And for the most part, you can only stun the enemies. But what you can do, there are these little sprigs in the ground, and if you stun them and then spray that, a sand like structure will shoot out of the ground, and you can defeat those enemies. So it's a little time consuming, but in this entire area right here, I would clear out all of the enemies that you can. Make sure there's no enemies right here, and that makes this so much easier, because by the time you get the watermelon over here, you don't want to have to worry about enemies. So to clear those out, take the time, and then when you're on this, just go super slow. Just take your time. You're not on a timer, so just kind of tap it, tap, and you can get it. This is not that bad. It's a little time consuming, and if it does, you can reset. Every time the watermelon explodes, it'll reappear up here. So just take your time, clear out the enemies, and follow this path, and you can do it. So yeah, don't let this be a stumbling block for 100%ing the game if that's what you want to do. But again, if you just want to beat the final boss, all you have to do is the level 7s of each stage. So this is a bonus if you want to do 100% of the game. And then another red coin challenge, and then a super, basically a freebie here for the 10th sprite. And so every once in a while, there's just like a total freebie, even though it's the 10th sprite. That one is free. Moving on to Pinna Park. I want to highlight the 100 coin recommendation in this stage because episode 2 is by far the easiest to do the 100 coins. Basically, you're getting shot out by these bullet bills, and if you just spray them with coins, or spray them with water, coins will fall out, and then of course the gold one will have even more coins, and that will basically go forever. So this is the easiest and most fun 100 coin challenge in the game. So if you don't want to bother with any of the other ones, you just want to get one to get an extra shine sprite, this is a fun one to do. I remember as a kid just shooting those for fun because it's really fun to mess around with those and to dodge the bullet bills. Some people don't like the stages where you're on the roller coaster because it's a little tricky with how you're having to get yanked around and you're just looking in all different directions, but this one is not that bad. It gives you an idea of the controls for the level we're going to talk about in a second. That's quite a bit harder. The Beach Cannon Secret. This one's not too bad. Have to be a little quick in some of the areas. Just kind of watch the pattern with how the floor is turning, and you'll be fine. The Yoshi Go Round Secret. This one looks really perilous, but this is not one of the bad ones. You can see the path that you should follow right there when you get to the end. And there is a one-up right here as you're going. You can, only the inner circle can you go under this overhang. But there's a one-up, fairly early part of the stage. So if you get that, you can keep retrying it. Not that bad. Roller coaster balloons is another difficulty spike for people. So again, you're on the roller coaster and you have 3 laps to destroy 20 of these balloons. And yeah, I mean, there's really not even any great tips for this. Just to get a feel for the controls and try to shoot when you have multiple balloons in a row to try to knock them out with one shot, since you do have a limited number of chances. And this was probably, this isn't my top 5 of probably the hardest levels. What I was having happen to me is I would have 19 out of 20 over and over and over again, and it's usually a different balloon, and just, if you miss one over here and you're over here, it's just hard to get it. So I think just, perseverance here. It's, it's not that bad. It's just, it can get a little frustrating with trying to control the rockets, but you can definitely do it if you've made it, this far in the game to the level 8s. You can definitely do it. Moving on to Sirena Beach. It's basically a haunted hotel. And this is probably one of the most time consuming, so I did it. I think I ended up in episode 1, because the other option is 4 that they give you to do a slot machine. I wouldn't mess with that. I mean, I guess if you're crazy. But episode 1, you essentially have to go around the stage and spray the ground, and coins will just appear from the ground. And this is really time consuming, but you can do it. So basically, I would spray the ground in this direction, and then I would turn around and spray in this direction, and just kind of zigzag up and down. It's really time. Either one of these is very time consuming, but this is the way I did it, and I end up with 101 coins. So there's at least 1 to spare here, but it is tight. I was stuck on 99 for a long time, and then there's an area where you think you sprayed already, but there's a coin that pops out. So just, very methodically go through, spray, and just make sure, one of the things that I would change in like a remake is a lot of the coins in the game, the yellow coins disappear so fast, and you can't afford to miss really more than 1 here basically. And so you don't really want to just spray really, really, really far away from you, because you don't have a long time to get that coin before it disappears. So just take your time and go through, and you can find all of them. Or if you don't want to do that, you can go to episode 4 and play these slot machines over and over again to get your 100 coins. Alright, we've made it to the level that I actually struggled on the most for whatever reason. This isn't even a level that comes up in a lot of the lists that I was seeing, but this stage gave me so much trouble, and I'll show you what I ended up doing, but essentially you have to go through, a couple little sections of easy platforming, and then there's two paths you can take of this disintegrating sand again, and I never really got comfortable going around on that sand. It was very tricky for me just to make it to this point. And I think in modern Mario games, I think if there was like a checkpoint right here, that maybe would appear. Even if it didn't appear right away, it's like, hey, you got here a few times. Here's a checkpoint so you don't have to do this part over and over again. But like, a checkpoint here would go a long way. But anyways, the problem I was having is this bugger right here. This is going to rotate, and like the other rotating blocks, you don't want to jump really on it, but the sides are, you can kind of see it here, they're pretty sharp. So if you try to walk up when it's you too early, you're not going to make it, or if you're too late, you're not going to make it. So you really have to be perfect on how you're calmly walking around this as it's spinning. This is what killed me so many times, and what I ended up doing. So there's a 1-up very, very early in the stage, hidden in this block, or we're past it here, but hidden in this block. You just break one of the blocks early on, and there's a 1-up there. So get that one, and then you go. And so there's also a 1-up in this watermelon block. So what I was doing is breaking this and getting to this 1-up, and then jumping off onto this platform, and that just was not working for me. It was throwing me off balance. So what I was doing, since I was already collecting the 1-up there, I was breaking this block right here and coming down the steps here, and then jumping on it from this, and that was so much easier for me. So if you are getting this 1-up every time, but you're having trouble jumping onto this, I would recommend just coming down and going straight from this level there, and then riding this very carefully onto this other little sand clump here. And once I made it here, I did get it right away, but you have to be careful there too, because that does disintegrate on you. So this illustrates how steep that turning block is a little bit better. You can see those sides are so freaking steep. That was driving me crazy. So yeah, I was breaking those watermelon blocks to get the 1-up, and then jumping off, and yeah, that was just not working for me. So if you're getting frustrated doing it that way, you can try it the other way, where you just skip that and jump on. I think it's a little bit easier. And even that first sand part, I wasn't even getting it super consistently. So the guide says to go this way, which is much faster but a little more dangerous. But what you can also do is here, jump down and go here, and it's slower, because what I was doing is basically every block is disintegrating and you have to jump off of it at the last second. So you can actually go both ways, so you can see what works better for you, but this way is a little bit faster, and it's what the guide recommends. But you can also do it this way too, if you're more comfortable doing it that way. But this, I actually had to step away from the game and try it again the next day, because I was just not getting this friggin' gear section. So this was my hardest secret level that I did. So if you're having trouble on this one, you're not alone. And then if you do it and no problem at all, then you're just a really good gamer. No, I'm just kidding. this was hard for me. So yeah, don't let it get you frustrated, and take a break if you're having problems with any of the stages, because it's all about having fun. So, and I was playing it long enough to where I'm like, I'm not having fun anymore, but that one was a bugger for me. This one was not nearly as bad. The secret stage is really just a little bit of annoying to get there because of how you have to spray this picture to flip over to make the shine spread appear. So you basically just want to start at the top and kind of work your way down. So yeah, when I got to the Red Coin Challenge, you basically can just one-shot this. If you've been struggling with the other way, now that you have your flood and you can hover around, it's so much easier. Alright, moving over to Noki Bay, which probably has a lot of people think it's the hardest secret stage in the game. Yeah, here we go, the shell's secret. So, you have to kind of traverse the whole stage just to get up and go into this shell right there. And then for that platforming, you are rewarded with this giant monstrosity of a level. And my recommendation here is I would just watch someone play through it on YouTube and get an idea of the pathing that you should do. Like, here for F, there's this, they say to basically go up this board, but I never did that a single time. I just went down to, there's this springy rope down here, and if you go on that, you can actually jump up from there. So, just watch someone do it, and there's some tricky wall jumps here, like you have to jump from an angle and get up. So if you're having trouble with this one, I would recommend watching someone play through it. And there is I think it is right here in one of these nails, so pretty early, not over here, but so you have to wall jump out of this and then get right there, so you can get a secret one up really early in that stage. Highly recommend getting that so you don't get too frustrated, and even having to get back to the level is a little bit of a hassle. So once you get all the way up here, you have to traverse some of these spinning columns that you've done earlier. And, this one I think in particular is just spinning so fast. So just kind of take your time before you jump onto this column and kind of watch it and, jump at the time that you feel comfortable. And, unfortunately, if you fall there, you'll die and you have to start over. So here's another stage where in modern Mario, I think if they had a checkpoint right before you started these columns, this level will be so much easier, because my hands were already sweating when you make it all the way up here, and you don't want to have to start all over again. So it's pretty difficult, but if you just get a feel for it and try not to jump it, just run around as it's spinning, you'll be fine. And again, you would think that having to do the coins would be just a nightmare, but it's not bad at all. And the final coin is just right there, so you don't have to do the rest super fast. So as soon as you get that, it'll stop running the timer. I think some people, struggle a little bit with the Goopy Inferno because the way that the guide, I know there's other ways to do it, but I just did it the guide way, where you have to go to the back of this stage and ground pound, and then you're hanging upside down and kind of traversing this section down here. So it's a little tricky, but it's really not that bad. Okay, this is another one where you have to get a Yoshi just to enter the stage, which is a bit annoying. And I think some people really hate this level too and struggle with it. But if you just I'll kind of show each of the frames, if you just talk to them at the right time, it's very easy to replicate. So that's the trick, is just knowing where and when to talk to the chucksters. The last one was the hardest, so you just kind of want to frame yourself right on the right side of this line right here and talk to them right there, and you'll get it. It's really not that bad. Once you realize it's kind of like the pachinko machine, where it might seem frustrating, but once you know when and what angle to talk to the chucksters, it's very repeatable and not bad at all. This level's a little scary because at the very end, you have to grab this like dandelion seed fluff and fly all the way out to this cloud in the sky and just drop down onto it. What I would do, or what I did, is rotate Mario so he is facing on the other side of this. That gives you a little bit more of a window to drop down just right, because it will disappear on you. So if you're feeling nervous, you can grab one of those fluffs that are floating lower on the ground and get a feel for, how to drop off of it and how Mario reacts. Because by the time you get all the coins, you don't want to have to start all the way over. And then when you have to replay the game to get the red coins, I would watch somebody do this, because you don't even really need to use there's only I think one that you need to use the chuckster for. You can use your flood and spin jumps to do the rest, so not bad at all when you have to come back and do it. And then if you've beaten at least all of the level 7s, you get an opportunity to fight the final boss, which is a little tricky in this second section with the boat. You may have seen that listed in difficult levels, but there are a couple one-ups. One is very, very early, and one is right before the boat section. it's not that bad. It's a little spooky as the pieces are falling. You have to jump to get back up to the edge, but not that bad. And just like that, you've beaten the main game, and then there is mop up for the blue coins, which I did at the very end. And so blue coins are not necessarily available in every stage, so this is, level 8 is a great one to do because all the blue coins are available. Yeah, this is what I was talking about. By the time you make it back to the Sandbird, you're going to be so much more comfortable with the controls, and these blue coins are not bad at all. So don't freak out about missing them the first time you're doing the red coin challenge on the Sandbird. So when you're doing the blue coins here, episode 7 is a really good one for anyone that's available in levels. Episode 7, because all of the doors to the hotel are open, it makes it a lot easier to go knock those out. And then you can go back and do the little onesie-twosies later. Okay, this was the hardest to do blue coins in because there's so many little secret alcoves that you spray with your flood that make recesses that there's in coins in. So for this one, I would probably recommend just watching a guide and just following along, because I was stuck at 29 for a long time, and I was like, I have to go through and recheck every area because the game does not keep track of these for you. Another thing, if they did a remake, I think having just the coins numbered, it's like, oh, you're missing, 16, and you're like, oh, I'm missing this hidden alcove one. That would help so much. But if you just watch a guide, it's not that bad. And then here's a quick overview. They've been giving recommendations to do the 100 yellow coin challenges, and there's really just a few stages where you definitely can't get 100 yellow coins, so you have some flexibility, but if you just follow their recommendations, it's a lot easier. So yeah, I just wanted to go through that while this was all fresh in my mind. I know there are some difficulty spikes, but Super Mario Sunshine is just an all-time incredible game. So, if you have the ability to either play, the original on the Switch 2 service, or if you have a copy to play it in HD, either way, it holds up so great, and I definitely recommend this game. So don't let it get you frustrated, and you can get through the game if you just follow some of my tips or look up some videos on hints to do it. So we play games for fun, so don't let it get you frustrated. This is a game that should just be enjoyed, and yeah, this was so fun to replay and get everything again. I know this has been a little bit of a longer one, so thanks for sticking around, and until the next one,